Hey friends, it's Lethea from Farmview Creators. Today we're going to work on the Nutcracker Insert for the Interchangeable Sign Post Holder from the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. I love this kit. I love nutcrackers in general, so this is the perfect kit for me. So I'm going to take the pieces and put them on my well-loved sticky board, trying to kind of categorize them by what color I think I might paint the pieces. I'm going to start with those backboards because I want to do some crackle on it, so I need to get it really dry. So I'm starting on the things that take the longest first. I'm going to put 2 coats of British gray acrylic mineral paint from Couture and get both of those coats super dry. And then I'm going to use their 2-step Crackle medium. You go in with step 1 with a dry, clean brush and brush that over. Thinner coat is going to equal small crackles, thicker coat, larger crackle. You want to make sure you don't overwork the medium while you're brushing it on. So try to brush it on with as few strokes as possible. I use some of the leftover British gray from my paintbrush on the top of that ornament. And then I'm doing a layer across the whole nutcracker with Farmhouse linen chalk style paint. The reason I'm doing this is there's some pretty intricate details on this guy, and I thought it would be easier if I just went ahead and painted everything white instead of trying to figure out where the white goes. And I'm going to use red, and if you know anything about paint, you know reds are notorious for being streaky and needing lots of layers. And since I'm having to, freehand paint his outfit, I did not want to have to put a bunch of layers of red on there. So I was hoping that that would help, and it did. For my blue, I'm using Abyss. This is another mineral acrylic from Couture. Gonna get his little shoulders and the bottom strap of his crown, and then the base of the ornament, as well as the words for the side piece. I'm using a new set of brushes that Christina recommended. I got these on Amazon Prime Day, so they were a really good deal. And I really like them. They come in lots of nice shapes and sizes. And they're getting the paint on there pretty smoothly. I'm going to do 2 coats of that navy. And making sure that I'm always trying to paint with the grain of the wood. Is a little hard on the words sometimes. But if you paint with the grain of the wood, the paint goes on much more smoothly. You end up using less paint as well. So I'm going in, and on those parts that are going to stay white, I'm adding that 2nd coat. And my next color is pitch black. I love this black. Most of the time you only need 1 layer of it because it is so dense and thick in color. So I'm painting his belt and his boots. And then I'll pop over to my sticky board and get his shoes. Again, just 1 coat for that black because it goes on so nicely. And we'll pull that black out later. We're still going to need it. For my red, I'm using Mulberry. I really love this red. To me, it makes it feel more vintagey and old school. Using a small brush. I had my larger flat round tip, and I'm using that to smooth out because, again, I don't want my red to be streaky. But to do my outline, I am using a small tipped brush. And then I'll go in and smooth out those lines and fill in with the larger brush. So doing that on both sides and on his little hat. And whenever I get out of the lines like that, I just take a baby wipe and kind of wrap it around my fingernail and then use my fingernail to kind of rub. And even with the red, it did a really good job of picking that up. You'll see me picking him up and kind of moving him around. That's so that I can see the score lines more easily in the light. Getting that second coat, because yes, it did need a second coat, but it did need a third, so that's good. Again, doing little touch-ups with my baby wipe, and then going back in with that navy abyss color on his trousers. Do we use the word trousers still? A lot of my students don't know what trousers are. I'll go in and do a second coat on his pants in a minute. Putting some mulberry on there, on the ornament, and we're still going to bling that up. I know it kind of looks boring right now with just two colors, but we're going to bling it up. For my flesh color, I've been trying to find the perfect flesh, and this is... what is it? Rosie Beige from Delta Cerama something. I'll put it in the comments. Did my second coat with that mulberry. And then for the border on the hanging piece on the signpost, I am doing a layer with a sponge of Zinc Glaze. It has a black color to it, but it also sparkles. Now I've given that time, it's tacky with that Crackle. I'm putting on that top coat. That top coat is very thick. I feel like it's gotten thicker. I've had it for a while. It's gotten thicker over time, but it still worked. I was a little worried, but it still worked. You can already see the crackle happening. So I let that dry overnight. Going in with my antique gold Luxe metallic paint here, and I apologize for the blurriness. It won't last long, I promise. Did 2 coats of that, and I started to paint the dots, and I was like, what am I doing? I can dot it with the end of the brush. So I went and did all my dots first, and then used the brush tip to connect those laces across on his shoes. Had to do a little bit of a touch up, but that's okay. And then I tried to do the same thing on his outfit, but those dots were way too big. So I did freehand paint those in and then connected them. I let that dry again overnight since the Crackle needed to dry overnight. The next morning I did put another coat on the little lines connecting his buttons on his outfit. For that red, I just took a fan brush and gently brushed that metallic across. Okay, so now we're the next day. Next morning, I am using that Farmhouse linen to paint in his eyebrows. And I messed up on one, so I just wiped it off and started again. And then using the end of my paintbrush to get his eyeballs, and then a small detail brush to paint his mouth, which a lot of that's going to be covered up with his outfit. And there I am adding a little bit more of that gold. It was just a little thin across there. Doing a little touch up on his face because I didn't have it rounded enough on that one side, and it was bothering me. You probably didn't notice, but I noticed. And look at that Crackle. I love it. So I don't usually use their glazes as actual glazes. I use them as stains, and I love them as stains, but I've really been trying to use them as glazes. So for a glaze, you put it on, you wait however long you want, and then you wipe it back. Well, again, I'm learning with the glazes. So I wiped it back, and I wiped it too early, so I wiped too much off. So I put a little more on there, and then I very, very, very lightly wiped across with my well-used baby wipe there. And I love how it turned out. I'm going in with Debbie's DIY Dark Wax to just distress all the pieces. Got a little too much on his white shirt there, and so I kind of wiped it back. Then I'm going to go in with my favorite top coat. You know that. Dead flat. Takes out all the shine except on that Zinc Glaze because it has sparkle to it, and that sparkle is still going to show through. Also, that gold is still going to be a shiny gold. That's what I love about dead flat. The things you want to stay shiny, they do. Everything else is matte, and I love that contrast. Pulling everything off my sticky board, I'm going to start with that frame, getting it on that back piece, and letting it set up while I do the rest of the assembly. Now on that piece right there that goes inside the post, you have to make sure that you don't have any paint on the edges or it's not going to go in easily. So I always just kind of sand those edges, you know, trial and error. I learned that I needed to do that. And just assembling all of those pieces. I love art glitter glue because it dries clear and it gives you a little wiggle room. So sometimes I'll kind of wipe up any paint that smushes out the sides, but other times I don't. Oh, he's so cute. I love him. See, like right here, I did not have him centered, so I kept pushing him over. If that had been like stick fast, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And there he is in the signpost. I love him so much. I hope you do too. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe.